Welcome to the Conservation Board meeting of Southampton Town for February 28th, 2000, February 25th, 2026. I invite everyone to rise for the salute flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your microphone, Harry.
Oh, they're all
Details. So did you hear the first part, even though the mics are off?
If you want to maybe do it again just to be safe.
Does that work?
sure, why not?
Okay, to now repeat what I said earlier, since now the microphones are on and before they were off. Welcome to the Conservation Board meeting of February 25th, 2026. What is your pleasure on the minutes of February 11th, 2026?
Move the minutes be accepted as presented or amended.
And we do have
We were all here.
one, two, we can do it, yes. It's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Public hearings. We're going to wait on the public hearings because we expect some people to come here. And let's move on to advisory reports for the Board of Trustees of the Freeholders and Commonalty of Town of Southampton. Sunset Equity Holdings LLC.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This advisory referral relates to residentially developed property at 32 Sunset Avenue in East Quogue. There are several recommended comments. First is that based upon a February 18, 2026 Environment Division field assessment, the existing failing bulkheaded boat basin, which is located within tidal wetlands alongside Phelps Creek, needs to be abandoned and not reconstructed and or heightened by 6 inches in order to stave off further adverse environmental impacts related to a recent trustee decision to permit heightened rebulkheading of the remaining 152 linear feet of shorefront. Second, the need for the boat basin has not only been negated by the recent trustees' authorizations for installation of a catwalk, ramp, float, and mooring piles, but more importantly, its rebuilding would run counter to the goals of preserving and reclaiming shell and finfish habitat, the area's significance as a wildlife area, and the continued ecological health, biological function, and scenic benefits of the creek. Thirdly, the affected environs are restricted by Condition Administrative Wetland Permit number WAP 25099, which was issued on November 20, 2025. Whose allowance for residential development was strictly conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted wetland preservation area inclusive of all on-site wetlands and a 100 feet wide naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. As such, any permitting of boat basin rebuilding would be at odds with the town's goals of wetland preservation. Fourth, because boat basins act and serve as a designated area for watercraft storage, they pollute surface waters and are toxic to aquatic shellfish and wildlife due to increased levels of contaminants stemming from fuel discharge, toxic boat paints, cleaners, antifreeze, and fiberglass material. 5, bulkheaded boat basins also cause unnatural shoaling, thereby interfering with natural sand movement along creek bottoms, creating navigational hazards and interference with watercraft. Additional negative environmental effects include rack accumulation that disrupts water flow, circadian rhythm disruption as a consequence of exterior lighting, and disruption to creek bank-dependent arthropod and crustacean species, including, among others, Atlantic horseshoe crab and Atlantic marsh fiddler crabs. 6, the perimeter of the existing failing bulkheaded boat basin contains beneficial shoreline anchoring vegetation, including smooth cordgrass, marsh elder, Spartina patens, Phragmites, and blackgrass, among other species, lending the site well to natural recovery if the basin is abandoned and left to deteriorate without human interference. Conversely, demolition and removal of the existing bulkhead followed by construction of a new bulkhead poses enormous plant mortality and root disturbance risks to these valued shoreline anchoring coastal plant species. And lastly, the Conservation Board is confounded and immensely troubled by the recent February 15, 2024 decision on part of the Board of Trustees to extend the term of general permit number GP 000610 until February 15, 2026, in order to allow for non-essential environmentally impacting bulkhead construction and heightening at the subject property. Acknowledging the sanctity, fragility, and exemplary ecological values of the affected surface waters, tidal marshlands, and freshwater wetlands at Phillips Creek, the lack of any high wave action or shore erosion, and the irrevocable damage posed by any re-armoring of this pristine site. The trustees need to set a new direction in conservation legacy for their board by not entertaining any further renewals of permitting or heightening of the 152 linear feet of non-essential historically built bulkhead.
Question. On number 1, it sounds like this trustee, the application to the trustees is to remove a deteriorating bulkhead and replace it. And you're suggesting that it not be replaced.
Yeah, there's a very, the property, as indicated, has 152 linear feet of shorefront. The trustees have already authorized the dock at the site. There's a really small boat basin that has shoaled in and is recovering to tidal marsh, and the trustees are looking to allow the landowner to reconstruct and re-bulkhead that boat basin, which in all likelihood would require dredging as well.
So we're going to deny, or you're recommending that they do not issue a permit to rebuild the bulkhead?
That's correct, yes.
And is this an individual private owner, or is this a marina?
Yes, it is. It's an individual private owner, as you can see on the aerial photograph. The property has very extensive marshlands that extend far into the property, and it's also restricted by a required covenanted buffer extending 100 feet landward of those marshlands.
So, item number 7.
Yes.
Although I don't find fault with the essence of what is expressed, I do not think it is wise for us to reprimand the trustees rather show them respect, but that paragraph, I would like to see rewritten in the context of explaining the environmental impacts of what the project will accomplish if approved, rather than tell them what they should do. I don't think we should tell any board of the town what to do.
Okay, I can do that. I'll amend number 7 accordingly.
With some softer language. We want to stay on the good side.
I'm sorry?
I said with some softer language, we want to stay on a cooperative, good side of,
Yeah, this is a very impressive site in terms of the exemplary wetlands at property.
And there's no question about that. That's not the
I
issue at all.
understand, I hear you. That's fine, I'll amend number 7.
I agree with your sentiments, Marty.
Okay.
Is there a motion to send these comments with adjustments, with modifications? What would you call that?
Yeah, I mean,
With amendments to the trustees?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Pelican 2 LLC.
Is that vote?
This is
Right, the vote,
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I just didn't hear.
she just wants to get the people who
And
voted last time.
does Aaron have a letter from somebody about being late and stuff?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, where's your permission slip? Okay.
The second advisory referral from the Board of Trustees is for property at 63 Lake Drive in the hamlet of North Sea. There are several recommended comments. The first indicates that the subject property contains extensive town-regulated tidal and freshwater wetlands, the extent of which needs to be fully depicted on the survey, together with proposed clearing of existing natural vegetative cover upon receipt of the requisite wetland boundary flagging application and subsequent delineation by the town. 2, the site has a history of extensive unauthorized clearing and filling of wetlands affecting at least 1,000 square feet, which a former landowner was required to remediate by fill removal and native revegetation, and that's pursuant to the requirements of administrative wetland permit number 0. That's actually pursuant to the requirements of wetland permit number 03-160 issued on October 6, 2023. Fence and potential shed removals are also required.
2023 or 2003?
2003. Did I say 2023? I'm sorry. No, I'll correct myself, it's 2003. Thirdly, the town archive records will need to be further reviewed, followed by a reassessment of current site conditions in order to firmly establish whether the wetland reclamation requirements were fully met. 4, based upon a February 13, 2026 Environment Division preliminary field assessment, the existing natural vegetative cover, including among others, Phragmites, northern bayberry, and northern bayberry need to be preserved to the maximum extent to preserve the environmental sanctity of fresh pond at the subject property. Repositioning of the proposed fixed pier should be considered to avoid undue disturbance to natural vegetation. 5, notwithstanding that the planned building materials for the new elevated walkway would comply with current environmental standards, the proposed catwalk length should be reconsidered to similarly match lengths of other existing fixed piers in Fresh Pond. Current proposed length of 60 feet may impose not only boat/watercraft accessibility issues for the existing catwalk and dock at the southerly abutting property at 59 Lake Drive, North Sea, but would also have significant adverse wetland impacts. Negative environmental effects, which could be avoided or significantly lessened by reducing the catwalk length, include direct habitat loss from piling installation, plant mortality caused by human trampling, root damage, and vegetation removal during construction, altered or restricted tidal flooding due to erosion, structural interference, and rack accumulation that disrupts water flow, loss of native vegetation species that require higher light levels, reduced shorebird and wading bird diversity resulting from diminished foraging areas, fragmentation of habitat linkages and wildlife movement and dispersal corridors, and circadian rhythm disruption and associated harm to plants and animals caused by exterior light. And lastly, any decision on the pending application needs to be held in abeyance till the wetland boundaries have been flagged by the town and surveyed, and any remaining wetland remedial needs have been reassessed so that the Conservation Board is better positioned to provide additional needed advisory comment.
Motion to send those comments to the Board of Trustees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The administrative wetlands are in your packets. And now let's go back to the public hearings. A 19 Cold Spring Court LLC. The applicant requests adjournment to April 22nd, 2026. Is there anyone in the public or on Zoom who'd like to speak in this application?
Motion to adjourn to April 22nd.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? A 025046 DB Ventures LLC.
This is a new public hearing. We do have affidavits of posting and mailing, and the board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing tonight.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Aram Tertunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, on behalf of the applicant. I spoke with Marty earlier today to advise him that I was going to drop a whole bunch of information tonight, and therefore I expect there to be an adjournment. And I don't want to go through the report that I've prepared. I just want to give you the highlights. I'm just going to hand them up now.
So no sense in handing anything here because all this is new? Okay.
All stamped in.
Thank you.
A couple of developments with regard to these properties. So there are 5 properties in total, including DB Ventures that we're discussing this evening, that we're requesting an increase in elevation of a replacement bulkhead. This report looks at all 5 of those properties as one. Today, we filed electronically, and I've just given Karina hard copies. On 3 of the properties, we had asked to reconstruct groins that are existing. We've dropped those from the application. So all 5 of these applications are now the same thing. They're all existing timber bulkheads that will be we requested to be replaced in place with an increase in elevation of 18 inches. So all of them are the same. There's no differentiation between the different properties. So what we're looking at here is 5 properties along a stretch of more than a half a mile of shoreline that is all improved with existing bulkheads of varying compositions, mostly timber. I go through a kind of a structured approach in the report that I've handed up, where I talk about the location and the purpose and the need. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the need, I think, the purpose is pretty obvious. We want to maintain stability of the shoreline in order to protect the bluff and to protect the wetland, because failure of the bulkhead in this location would have significant adverse impacts on both of those resources. The need is pretty straightforward in the sense of these bulkheads are at the end of their functional material life, which is about 30 years, and they're in need of replacement or else they will fail. And the method of failure in this particular case is primarily due to wave overtopping. We're going to get into that in a little bit more detail. But it's important to understand that we're not asking to increase any of the footprint of the structure. We're not trying to advance it seaward, merely trying to replace it in place and increase the elevation. The area, this is a glacial bluff. The elevations range from 5 feet to 35 feet across these 5 different properties. The property at 23 Bittersweet is on the northern end, and the property at 51 Clearview is on the southern end of this group. The bluff is well vegetated and with quite mature vegetation, principally as a function of its stability, which is the toe protection of the bluff that's provided by the existing bulkhead. The littoral setting is such that there's a good, if you go to, for the setting, I put all of the figures at the very back of the report. So if you want to look at those, you can see. In figure 1, which we give you the location of the 5 properties, they're in the center photograph gives you a good context of the, this particular photo, figure 1, gives you good context of where it sits on Little Peconic Bay. But also there are photos of the shoreline at low tide, and you can see there's a very rocky, pebbly, cobbly shoreline. But there is no high tide beach. The high tide comes, the high tide comes all the way up to the bulkhead. There is no littoral transport in the area, simply because there is very, very little sediment. However, if we go back in time to the 60s, before these bulkheads were built, this is what we call a null point. In other words, sand is transported both north towards Jessup Neck and south towards Woolley's Pond. So it's before the stabilization, this was an area that eroded and fed sand to those 2 areas, north to Jessup, south to Woolley's Pond.
There was no sand on the beach, is that what you're saying?
Well, you see in the photo, there's no sand. No, it's all
Now
pebble
there's
cobble.
no sand, because there's erosion from the bulkheads, but prior to the bulkheads, are you saying there was no sand?
No, there was sand.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a mixture of sand.
All right, I just want to keep it accurate.
The tides here are semi-diurnal, twice a day. The tide range is about 2.5 feet, with higher spring tides and smaller neap tides. The waves in Peconic Bay are generally they're wave driven. They're generally on a daily basis, not more than a foot. During storms, they get 1 to 3 foot, and in severe storms, they'll get as high as 4 feet and more. But what we did was, as far as the sediments go, if I just go back a second, there's a photo right here on figure 2 of the sediments. We actually went out and sampled the sediments at the base of the bulkhead and then about 20 feet offshore during low tide. And you can see the photos of each of the sediments that we sampled. It's this sandy, gravelly, pebbly mix. And it's virtually the same whether you're at the toe of the bulkhead or in 30 inches of water 20 feet offshore. This is a very consistent sediment characteristics. The other thing that we did was we had a little bit of a storm this past weekend, and we wanted to look at how this shore responded, how these properties responded to that storm, and see if they gave us some indications of how best to manage. So on figure 3, you'll see what we did. These are photographs taken at the site yesterday, and you can see that in the photos at 23 Bittersweet and 67 Clearview, that even in the storm of this past weekend, Coastal Storm Hernando, we included a tide graph from Shelter Island Sound, and you can see that the surge there was only about 3.5 feet, which is actually lower than the 1 in 10-year storm, which is a 4-foot surge. But even in that, small conditions, you can see that the snow was removed landward of the bulkhead, indicating that overtopping was occurring even in that fairly minor storm. We also, in the upper right corner, is a picture of 28 Bittersweet, which is a project that was recently approved and built. And that bulkhead is about 8.1 feet, according to the engineer's plans. And you can see there was no overtopping there because the snow goes right up to the back of the structure. So again, we use this as an opportunity to examine what's happening and to inform us as to what would be an appropriate response.
What is the height?
Go ahead.
What you gonna ask too, weren't you?
You mentioned 8.1 feet at 28 Bitter Street. What's the height of your client's bulkheads?
7 feet.
Okay, just, so it's a foot.
Yeah, 1.1. Right. So we thought that was informative, and we want to share that with the board. One of the reasons that we're so late in getting this is we had to gather that information and compile it today. Now, when we were looking at these shorelines, we want to look at storm conditions, because that is the time when any structure is going to, pay or not pay, as it were. So there was a study done by Delandro Andrews Engineers for a different project at 2235 Noyak Road, but within, a few blocks of this vicinity. And I've given you there the 10, 25, 50, and 100-year wave heights, which are 4.5 all the way up to 10.8. That's on page 5 of the report. At the same time, we have to look at storm surge, and FEMA has calculated the storm surge for the same time intervals at between 4 feet and 9.65 feet. For the purposes of our evaluation, we're looking at the 10-year storm. And we do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, that is a pretty frequent occurrence, in our experience, more than once every 10 years. And number two, we believe it to be, the minimum necessary to provide protection to the property and to prevent overtopping of the bulkhead, which would result in failure. The other thing that we took into account was sea level rise. And what we did with sea level rise was we took the gauge at Montauk, which you can see in figure 4. And you saw this, you've seen this in the past. Yep. This is the sea level rise curve from Montauk, and then onto that we added the projected sea level rise that New York State has adopted under Part 490 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations. Taking all this, and so we've detailed for you on page 6, both the New York State projected sea level rise as well as the NOAA sea level rise projections, which are about the same. The average is 16.9 inches, a range of 15.7 to 21.2, all pretty much in the same neighborhood. And the references for that are given in the report. The wetlands on the site are not what you would, typically think of as, a marshy wetland. The wetland is, in fact, the bay bottom and the foreshore, which is, as I've shown you in previous photographs, is characterized by this gravelly, pebbly mix with very little sand. So our proposed action is to replace the bulkhead in place and to increase it by 18 inches. Then I've gone into a discussion of regulatory considerations where I go through the other permit agencies that have authority here, and that's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They have what's called a nationwide permit. That's all spelled out here for you, where they automatically grant 18 inches. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has a general permit. They do the same thing. The specific language is spelled out for you in the report. And then you have the New York State Department of State Coastal Management, where they actually concur with the Army Corps of Engineers nationwide permit. So all three of these agencies have provided a streamlined mechanism for increasing bulkheads by 18 inches. The next thing we did was pursuant to Chapter 325-9 is to look at what the alternatives are at the site, which we have as elevating the existing bulkhead in place, increasing elevation by 18 inches, reconstructing the bulkhead at the existing height, which is essentially a do-nothing, and then changing a bulkhead to a living shoreline, completely changing, the protection mechanism. So in here, I point out that that staff has previously recommended approving the elevation of bulkhead, specifically at 25 Peconic Avenue, and that elevation was tied to the adjacent property's bulkhead, which I would propose to you is an arbitrary standard. What we're recommending to the board is a standards-based, site-by-site evaluation. The standard being the standard established through rules and regulations of the federal and state government based upon the best available scientific information. And the site-by-site being looking at what is on this site and how it would function under the wind, waves, and sea level rise that I've previously described to you. We then gave a description of the maintain the existing height, which I'm characterizing as a do-nothing proposal, because the bulkheads are already beginning to fail by overtopping. And therefore, to reconstruct them at the same elevation is basically to guarantee failure. Whether it's this week, next year, 5 years, or 15 years from now, sea level will rise, a storm will occur, overtopping will occur, the material behind the bulkhead will be removed. That will remove the stability of the bulkhead itself, because the sheeting is only as stable as the earth behind it. You remove the earth, the sheeting becomes unstable, and it's either going to collapse into the bay or into the shore, and you're going to have a great big mess of the bluff collapsing. All the vegetation that's on it is going to slump down and flow into the waters of Peconic Bay. So, FEMA and the DEC both provide guidance that when existing coastal protection structures are experiencing overtopping and functional failure as a result of these changing conditions, that an adaptive modification is to increase the elevation. We also looked at changing the entire thing to a living shoreline, and I exerted from staff report, again at 25 Peconic Avenue, something I agree with, which is there are, and I'll just read it because it's well-written and succinct. Unfortunately, there are no readily available solutions, especially when wetland permits are sought for replacement bulkheads at properties situated in the midst of a continuum of other bulkheads. And it goes on to say, as such, replacement bulkheads on a piecemeal individual lot basis is hampered, leaving the town with few options other than permitting of re-bulkheading. So I think bulkheading itself, I don't think is the issue here, and I think staff agrees. The other thing that we did, and this took more effort than I thought it would, but point your out to figure 5. I've given you a bunch of diagrams about how sea level rise would impact bulkheads, but I think this one shows it most clearly. At least Kristen in my office believes that, and she convinced me. So going from left to right, we're looking at the existing bulkhead with the current sea level, 10-year storm surge, and 10-year waves. So we have mean high water is 0.9, You add 4 feet, and then, I'm sorry, with the storm surge, it becomes 4 feet. That's your still water level. And then you add a 4.52-foot wave to it, and you can see that the bulkhead is clearly going to be overtopped. So faced with a 10-year storm today, this bulkhead is most likely going to fail. Then, in the second from the left, we have the proposed bulkhead with the 2025 sea level data. And you can see that if the bulkhead is elevated as we propose, then the property will be protected today from what is estimated to be a 10-year storm with a 4-foot surge and a 4.5-foot wave. The third from the left, or second from the right, is basically if the bulkhead is rebuilt at the existing level, and then we add in sea level rise to the 2050s. And you can see that now we have what amounts to, 3 feet of water breaking over the top of the bulkhead. Again, not today or tomorrow, but within the lifetime of the structure, which is a material lifetime of at least 30 years. You can also see on the far right, even with this elevation that we're asking for, this bulkhead is going to be overtopped in the future based upon predicted sea level rise. So I would say that this provides a very solid argument for standards-based. Here are the forces that act, the standards-based, which is 18 inches, the forces that are acting on this particular site, the elevation of this particular bulkhead, and a reasonable accommodation, adaptation. I'd point out for you that we have another application in front of the board at 23 Clearview in Noyak, which is just down the road. And in that particular application, we did not ask for 18 inches. Actually, we did, and then we withdrew it based upon review, because that bulkhead is at 10.3 feet. And at 10.3 feet, based upon figure 5, we'll still be in pretty good shape in the 2050s. So applying the standard, as I've described it, to an individual property can lead to 2 different answers. At the 5 that we're talking about, in my opinion, it leads to elevated at least 18 inches. At 23 Clearview, it says you don't need to elevate it, you've already got enough elevation. So that concludes my remarks this evening. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Question. Looking at the last figure, why did you not choose to raise the bulkhead to a 10-foot level?
I would love to do that. But I'm having a hard enough time getting 18 inches. And also, all of the other permits, all of the other general permits are tied to the 18-inch increase. Would I like to go to 10? Yeah, I would. Would I recommend that to my client? Yeah, I definitely would. If this board's happy to agree to that, I'll go back and revise the other applications.
The reason I ask you that question is that logically, and you're working through this very sequentially, very logically, looking at statistics, looking at science, looking at expectations by people who do this to make a living. And your schematic here shows that if this bulkhead is going to be functional for the next 30 years, it needs to be higher than what you're proposing.
That's correct.
So do you think it's going to fail if we give you 18 inches?
I think it's going to work. Well, first of all, they're predictions. So the 18, here's what I know about sea level rise, what's already happened. What that tide gauge in Montauk tells me, I'm pretty sure of. What's going to happen in the future? I don't know. We've picked what's called the mid-range. There is a low range as well, which doesn't go up as high, which is only The low range is 13 inches. But again, these are computer model predictions. Is it going to be that much? I can't say yes or I can't say no. Is the 18 inches reasonable? Yes, I believe it's reasonable. If sea level rises more quickly, then guess what? We'll have to adapt again.
If we give you a permit to do a new bulkhead here at some level, somewhat, doesn't matter in a sense, my question. And in some length of time, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or whatever, you discover, and it's discovered by like-minded people, that the permitted bulkhead and the construction of this bulkhead was insufficient to be functional. Is there a way for the engineers to design a way to add a piece and have it stable?
Yes. The beauty of this interlocking PVC sheet pile is such that you can actually install behind it. So in other words, I've got to raise it up 2 more feet. You can take a short piece of piling, say 4 or 5 feet long, insert it behind it, all interlock together, and then bolt them together, and that will give you the extra height. So it is from not just an engineering point of view, but from a practical construction point of view.
That would have to be the same confirmation as the new bulkhead you're putting in. Is there a standard there? Has this been around a long time? Does it vary between companies? Or is there one standardized sheet of bulkhead?
There are different sheet piles used, but the most common one is the one that we're proposing that we see used most often.
I just wanted to ask one, you finished, Sharon?
Yeah.
Just want to ask one question. On your figure 2, you lay out the property, your client's properties. And I was just curious, to the north, immediately north of 23 Bittersweet, and immediately to the south of, 51 Clearview. In other words, on the adjoining parcels to your client's properties. Do they have bulkheads, and what heights are those properties?
At the northern end, both of them have bulkheads, yes. The height on the northern end, I can tell you, is 7 feet. It's the same as ours.
7.
On the southern end, I don't know what it is. I presume it's similar.
So your clients are bounded by 7-foot bulkheads?
Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
Any other questions? We need to adjourn this, as you know. I want to ask if there are any questions in the audience. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this application, particularly on Zoom?
There's one person.
What do you say?
I'm sorry, could you repeat it, Peter?
One person.
Okay. So there's somebody on Zoom. Go ahead when you're ready.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Now I can.
No, we
Yeah.
can.
Yes.
My apologies. Technology sometimes is tough for us boomers. I believe the question regarding the property to the south would be my neighbor. I'm at 59 Clearview Drive, and they spoke at the last meeting. I think it was on the 11th, and they indicated that they too wanted to raise their bulkhead 18 inches. They haven't filed permits for it yet, but they were here. And
Forgive me,
I'm
could you just state your name, please? You haven't stated
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry. I'm Robert Ungaro.
And your
I'm the
address?
owner of the bulkhead at 59 Clearview Drive. I spoke at the last meeting, and I don't know if you remember, so I'll remind this board that we actually rebuilt the bulkhead 5 years ago at its current height, and we're now experiencing bulkhead failure because that height was insufficient. Restricting a repair to a structure that has already failed, at least to me, seems not only pointless, but being forced to rebuild again in only 5 years is itself a needless environmental impact, which creates unnecessary disturbances to and contaminants into the bay. The state is recommending 18 inches. Every engineer we've consulted is recommending 18 inches. And all the bulkhead contractors, and we've spoken to many, are all recommending an 18-inch height increase. So
Do you recall?
make this application respectfully, and I hope you consider that it was a great deal of money that I spent 5 years ago, and I'm now back at the bank having to do it again.
Do you recall the company that did the bulkhead 5 years ago?
Yeah, Wilson's Docks. He's the contractor who did the Sag Harbor Town docks. He's one of the best. And it's not failing. It's not a bulkhead failure. The bulkhead is solid. It's the overtopping by the bay that is, I don't know what the technical term is, but all the earth is coming out and it's leaching into the bay.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody. I know it's late, and I won't continue any further. I think I've said what I needed to say.
Thank you.
Your
Thank
neighbor, I have one more question. Your neighbor.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Your neighbor next to you, is he experiencing the same conditions that you are?
Well, yeah, the neighbor to the northeast is absolutely. The neighbor to the southwest is, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know how much damage that they are experiencing. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Good evening.
Thank you. When would you like to come back?
Well, when the board, at the board's pleasure, I gave you a whole bunch to digest. And Marty's got to review it as well and give you his opinion, so whatever you think is most appropriate.
March is full.
March is a great month. March is a great month.
March is full. April 8th or 22nd have one on each. If we have any meetings in March that adjourn and want to go to April, they'll fill up those spots. So April or later.
Which is,
Okay, yeah.
so let's ask Mark.
I'm here on April 8th anyway, if you want to pencil me in.
Well, let's make sure staff can accommodate it too.
Is that too soon?
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. As was alluded to by the applicant, I did not have the benefit of receiving any of this new information prior to tonight's hearing. So I will need sufficient time to not only review the new submittal, but also to do the independent research that's needed in order to come back to this board with a technical report making recommendations. With the current workload and the number of applications that are before this board that are raising consistent issues, I would ask that the hearing be adjourned to the first meeting in May. Thank you.
Calendar, it's April 22nd. Do you know what the next first meeting in May is, Karina?
13th.
Does that look okay to you, Marty, for your analysis? May 13th, does that seem like? Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn to May 13th?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Aram.
Thank you.
Now,
Marty?
now there are these 5 applications that you have before us, are they all contiguous?
Yes.
Okay.
And that last gentleman you spoke, is he one of your clients?
Yes, he is.
Would it be possible to pay a visit to this property, to one of these properties, this general area?
Yes.
And see it firsthand?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to walk any or all of you through it.
Okay. We'll be in touch.
Very good. Good evening.
Resolution of conditional approval. A019131, the Patricia Lynn Prue Revocable Trust.
It's still,
Applicant requests postponement to March 11th, 2026.
why do they keep postponing?
We have yet to receive drawings
Oh,
or
it's-
project plans.
Oh, all right. Okay, so it's, so,
We can't move on this application until we receive a site plan and drawing.
motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025011, 41 Tarpon Road LLC, applicant request postponement to March 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025021, Mark Charbonneau and Donna Charbonneau, applicant request postponement to March 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? A025051, Antonio Vendome. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Antonio Vendome for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A025053, the 61 Cliff Drive Family Partnership. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval would be granted to the 61 Cliff Drive Family Partnership for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A025054, Charlie Denby and Elizabeth Velton. Applicant request postponement to March 11th,
Motion.
2026.
Motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025062, Donovan Moore and Ann Moore. Applicant request postponement to March 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025065, Charles Princchiata and Lisa Princchiata. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Charles Princchiata and Lisa Princchiata for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary review of secret determination, A024060, Carter Simpson and Sloan Simpson, applicant request postponement to March 11th.
Motion to postpone to March 11th, 2026.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025047, Adios Holdings LLC.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application relates to property that is under residential redevelopment that is bulkheaded and has frontage on the Little Conic Bay. The application was made in order to gain this board's approval and a wetland permit as described by the February 18, 2026 advisory report to replace an existing timber bulkhead with a new untreated green heart wooden bulkhead that will not exceed the height of the adjacent bulkheads. As part of the review of this pending application, the board also needs to address approximately 100 linear feet of unauthorized dock or pier that was constructed at this site for which the landowner has been cited. As indicated by the detailed 8-page advisory report, there are many issues and concerns related to the unauthorized pier that need to be addressed. There are no issues or concerns with regards to the replacement bulkhead. The property benefits from a 50 feet wide covenanted naturally vegetated buffer. However, the trees have been topped throughout the buffer, and the ground covering vegetation has been disturbed, so there's also a need to reclaim the impacted bluff as part of this application. This action is classified as an unlisted action, so it is one for which the board will need to make a seeker determination, and prior to that junction, designate a lead agency for the purposes of seeker review. As such, I have drafted the requisite Part 2 and 3 environmental assessment form, but I'm awaiting submittal of a Part 1 by the applicant in order for us to go forward with the seeker review. This is an application for which significant additional information is needed in order to make a determination. There is also great public interest in this application. As such, we need to schedule a public hearing.
Do we have a date on this particular application?
I'm sorry?
Do we do a public hearing?
Yeah, motion to schedule public hearing for March 25th, 2026.
Second.
Second?
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for March 25th, 2026, and the notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask a question about this before we go on to the next? I'm just curious, who's likely to be the lead agency for seeker here?
The Conservation Board.
And the other thing I was interested about is, of course, we've taken this applicant to court, or at least that's what I read in the report. And
Sorry, I couldn't hear all what you...
I say, from reading the report,
Yes.
the town has taken this applicant to court on the, I guess, unpermitted 96-foot pier. I'm just curious, as a general matter, when do we take applicants to court?
Well, typically, if there is any enforcement action, it starts with issuance of notice of violation.
Right.
And then there is the option to then issue a court appearance ticket, which would require that the applicant appear in court on a scheduled date. There are many landowners in this town who have received court appearance tickets and have had to go to justice court.
They're in there because they violated.
Well, not necessarily. Typically, the goal of my office is to seek cooperation from the landowner in response to the notice of violation. It's customary that the notice of violation will direct the landowner to meet with my office and to file any requisite wetland permit applications. If there's a sense that the town is not getting sufficient cooperation from the landowner, the town can elect to then issue a court appearance ticket. Typically, notice of violation asks that the applicant take some initiative within 30 days. That's oftentimes extended. There is typically communication and coordination between the office of the town attorney and code enforcement in my office in order to get an update in terms of cooperation. So I don't know what the status of any court appearance tickets are that have been issued to this landowner, but this is certainly not the first time that an applicant has been asked to appear in court. When the applicant appears in court, typically the applicant will be asked to try and work with the town to resolve the matter in a way that does not necessitate going to trial. But one of the options, of course, is always to go to trial.
Thank you.
That's just general.
Right.
Thank you.
A 025048, Diane Waranis, the applicant requests postponement to March 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to March 11, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025056, Joshua Abramson and Gabriel Borden Finley.
This application relates to a residentially developed property at 23 Clearview Drive. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated February 17, 2025. The application has been made in order to seek this board's approval on a wetland permit to replace an existing timber bulkhead with a vinyl bulkhead. Initially, the applicant had sought to heighten that bulkhead as well as to revegetate any areas of disturbance. The advisory report recommended that a public hearing be scheduled in order to request additional information related to the potential environmental impacts of heightening the bulkhead. It was also recommended that a covenanted buffer be established extending 50 feet landward of the bulkhead. The applicant's agent has since indicated that they've met with the landowner, and the landowner is no longer interested in heightening the bulkhead and is amenable to all of the other recommended mitigative measures, including establishment of the covenanted buffer. As such, we now have sufficient information to make a determination, and the public hearing requirement can be waived.
Is this the application that Aram was referring to? The 10-foot-high bulkhead?
I believe so, but
23 Clearview.
Okay, thank you.
It's not on his list, it's not on his list of properties.
yeah,
No, it was a different one. It's outside of those five.
Okay.
You know, as I indicated, only just received the new information on the application that we held the hearing on, so I can't speak
All right,
as to
okay.
the details of that report.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A 025057 Jarvis Family Trust. The applicant requests postponement to March 11th, 2026.
Motion postponed to March 11th.
2026, second.
2026.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 026005 Town of Southampton.
This application relates to town open space at the Seaward terminus of Bay Bluff Way. The open space benefits from an existing public access walkway, and also is bulkheaded. However, the bulkhead is failing, as evidenced by the flooding landward of the bulkhead. The access stairway is non-functional and unsafe and needs to be replaced. There is a preliminary advisory report dated February 19, 2026. A permit is being sought from this board in order to, again, replace the bulkhead and replace the stairway. There are other features to this application as well. Upon reconstruction of the bluff stairway, the plans also call for creating upper and lower observation decks with a catwalk extending from the road end to the upper observation deck. The town is also looking to remove a significant amount of asphalt on the roadway and replace that with pervious stone in order to supplement existing drainage. The town is looking to create a bioswale that would be planted with native vegetation and would provide for sufficient recharge of runoff. There are wire fences on the bluff face that will be removed. The bluff, as a result of runoff, has significant erosion. There is also erosion of the bluff toe as a consequence of the virtual complete failure of the bulkhead. So the town is also seeking a permit from this board to deposit sufficient bluff-compatible soil in order to allow for full reclamation, restoration, and native revegetation of that bluff face. There are some other minor details as described by this application. This is an application for which we have sufficient information, make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to issue modified conditional approval, A 025010 Firefly Pond LLC.
This is a property located on Inlet Road East in the hamlet of Shinnecock Hills. The board had recently granted conditional approval for various accessory improvements at the site. The conditional approval required that a compliant 75-foot wide restored, unfenced, naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer be established. It also required that all on-site wetlands be covenanted as a wetland preservation area. The applicant has decided to seek approval for some minor additions, some minor supplemental amenities, including the construction of a spa that would be at a compliant setback, installation of a gas fire pit on the proposed extended patio, also at a compliant setback. And then there is a change in design of the required code compliant pool enclosure fence. Based upon our recent reinspection of the premises and the existing conditional approval, there is no aspect of these changes that would result in additional wetland impacts or require supplemental remediation or mitigative measures. As such, there is a resolution before you to adopt the necessary modified conditional approval in order to allow for these minor changes to the site plan. As part of the modification, the applicant has also come forward with an excellent plan for restoration of the buffer, which would also, and as well as a compliant survey. The adoption of the resolution of modified conditional approval would also approve a new survey and revegetation plan consistent with the parameters of the original Conservation Board approval.
Motion to issue the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a modified conditional approval be granted to Firefly Pond LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to.
One
What?
question. It would be helpful for one in our midst to start this meeting earlier than 7 o'clock. We could keep the hearings at 7 o'clock, but start some of the other things that don't require quite so much discussion at 6:30. If we were to do that, do any of you have a problem with that?
No, I'm sure between work and here, I can do what I gotta do.
You're working here, you got no life.
See, Libby?
Are you a millennial?
No.
A boomer?
Yeah.
That's typical of boomers, they just work all the time.
Gets me to bed earlier if we start earlier, so.
And Karina, you available?
Of course, I'm here.
And Kelly?
Sure. Yeah.
Now,
You didn't this morning?
and Marty?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think we should put in concrete yet because we're missing 3 people who are important. But if we were to do that, do we need to notice this in the paper?
Public hearings were they noticed for now 7? If they don't start, if the public hearings don't start till 7, then the public hearing notices don't have to be amended. But we'll just have to update the website, the
We don't need to
agendas.
notice the meeting itself?
Well, right now, the meetings aren't noticed, the public hearings are noticed. I mean, the meetings are noticed like on the website, but they're not noticed in the paper, it's just the public hearings.
If we did a 6:30, we wouldn't start the public hearings until 7? Is
Right.
that what you're saying?
Well, that's the thing, if you start the public hearings earlier, then you have to amend your notices.
Do you remember when we,
7 o'clock for the public hearings.
do you remember when we started the meeting at 7 and the public hearings didn't start till 7:30?
Right. It'd be the same thing except rolling it back literally.
So that,
Well,
we
we're go-
actually changed the public hearings, we brought them
Oh,
up
we
a half
can-
hour.
Okay, so you're gonna
He's
fill that
saying-
half hour with,
Harry's saying public hearings would still be at 7,
All right.
Can we start some of the administrative and
Okay.
secrets and
Yeah,
stuff,
you're gonna
which
deal with that.
start
Okay,
them
sure.
at 6:30?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Nobody speaks but us.
I just don't want to waste any time sitting around.
But we just have to make sure that the others are in agreement, because some of them are coming
Yeah.
from the west and they have to get here.
So we could do this in pretty short order. I mean, we could make that decision tonight. I don't think we should out of respect for the others.
Yeah, no, you.
But I think we can make the decision next meeting. because I'm-
everybody's here.
I'm expecting Les will be back, and I'm expecting the others will be here. And if somebody here is not,
You can give them a call.
yeah,
Give them a call.
so
The next meeting's March 11th.
let's prepare to do that. But next meeting, we'll confirm it and begin the following meeting.
Okay. Can I,
So, go ahead.
no, I did, if we're still discussing changing the time. let's
Well, I got
keep-
one more question.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I want something totally different.
So when we talk about the open meetings law, if four of us get together and talk about the application, we have to notice that. What does that mean if we're not noticing it now?
It has to be available to the public, so if we start at 6:30 and it's live streamed.
So we put it on the
people can watch it,
website.
We
and
put it
that's-
on the website,
And that's good enough.
yes. If it's a public hearing notice, then that's
That's
different. Right.
So if it goes to the website, how much lead time does the public need to have?
Well, if you're gonna decide tonight, then ideally tomorrow, as soon as possible, you would wanna put
Okay.
time. I mean, the new agenda for the next meeting hasn't been posted yet. So if someone were to look at the agenda for the next meeting, then they could see it would be 6:30.
Yeah, okay. All right, that
But if
works.
the hearings are staying at the same time, it's really shouldn't affect the public that much, because
No, it-
they can't speak during the secrets, they're not speaking during the, motion to give conditional approvals, they're only speaking during the
It
hearing.
would only be for those people
Hearings
who
aren't
want to be
changing.
present for the deliberations. But let's finish up and get a
Yeah,
question.
just curious, unrelated to what we've been talking about. So I guess the strong, robust winter weather has damaged all the docks in town and brought quite a bit of business to the trustees. And I imagine in terms of the need people to rebuild the docks. That's not going to really impact, we're not going to get a lot of new business out of that dock damage that has been caused. It's just going to fall to the trustees, not really to us. That was-
Yeah, it's outside of our
We
jurisdiction.
don't,
That-
we
that's
don't
what I was-
regulate docks.
Yeah,
Bulkheads are sort of a mixed bag.
unless it's Peconic Bay.
Peconic Bay, right.
Yeah.
Unless it's Peconic Bay.
Or Noack Bay,
Or
which
Noack
is
Bay.
part of
Yeah.
Conic Bay.
Wherever the trustees don't regulate within the town.
So they don't regulate in Peconic or Noyak.
They don't regulate state waters. Wherever
State
there
waters.
are state waters.
So, and there aren't a lot of docks out in Peconic, but yeah, some business could come our way this way.
Well, they regulate the interior coves
Right,
and ponds,
okay, just curious.
which are trustee-owned bottom lands.
Bay bottoms, yeah.
But bulkhead permits still go to the trustees for Noack Bay and Peconic Bay, correct?
No, they don't, no.
No.
If a bulkhead is being rebuilt on state waters, it only
That's why they
requires
come
a
before
permit
us.
from this board.
Well, how come, what about Mill Creek?
Interior creeks,
That's the,
in virtually all cases, the bottom lands, the underwater lands are owned by the trustees.
Okay, so even if they don't have.
It's the outer bay, that it becomes state waters.
Okay, so that's why O'Connell had to go to the trustees rather than us. Okay.
Yes.
okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ooh, all that was on the record, huh?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.